TV47, of course, this is the Daily Report, and with me in studio, I'm in conversation with Ezekiah Wenje, a former MP and CCM official from Tanzania, and we are discussing the recently concluded elections in Tanzania. So before the breaks, you are taking me through the figures, and that is the history of the previous elections and how the voter turnout has been. So maybe we can continue with that.
Exactly, thank you. I was saying that there has been a pattern, voter turnout pattern in our country, which is quite interesting for the past 30 years since we started the multi-party elections. So as I indicated earlier, that in 1995, that was the first time Ben Mkapa was coming in.
Yeah.
Voter turnout was 77%.
Okay.
In his second term, in 2000, voter turnout was 42%. In the year 2000, when President Kikwete was coming in for the first time with the excitement, voter turnout was 72%. Right. So it's worth noting that in the year 2000, when Mkapa was going out, turnout was at 42%. When Kikwete was coming in 2000, from 42% to 72%. In the year 2010, when Mkapa was going out, voter turnout from 72, it came again down to 43%. In 2016, when Magufuli was coming in as a fresh candidate,
yes,
voter turnout jumped again from 43% to 61%.
Okay.
When Magufuli was going out in 2020, it came down from 61% to 49%. So if at one point in time, in the year 1995, voter turnout in Tanzania came to about 77%, why is it unusual for voter turnout in 2025 to be 86%? Taking into consideration that President Samia came into this election as a fresh candidate, because this is where she starts her fresh mandate.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. Of course, as we continue.
And there is this other questions of about, they were talking of, this one was about voter turnout.
Yes.
Then there is this other question of the
97%.
97%.
Yes.
Look here. Number one, you see, the major opposition party in our country, which is Chadema, who pulled out of their own volition from participating in this election, were urging their members not to actually come out and vote. So the majority of people who came out to vote, majority of them are CCM members.
Okay.
And the other candidate. And it's also another fact that these other 18 candidates, I think 16 candidates who contested against President Samia were not coming from, very strong political parties. So it's not something unusual, for these figures, for President Samia to get a 96 victory. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, of course, as we continue, having such conversations, the next big question that everybody has been asking and that has been on everyone's mind is regard to media access and what exactly happened. Maybe you can tell us more as to the 5 days of the blackout. What exactly happened there? And why did that happen the way it happened? Is that something that was part of the plan the entire time? Is that something that was, it was a strategy to ensure that the international observers were not able to access these results? And of course, moving forward, when we look at the entire picture, when we look at the bigger picture, what was the aim and the goal of the media blackout?
Okay, number one, I think international observers, yes, do not get results while seated somewhere in the offices or in the hotels.
Yeah.
I believe that if they really want to oversee a credible process, they're supposed to actually go on the ground, go to these polling stations.
Right.
So as I have indicated, that we had about 100,000 polling stations across the country.
Okay.
There is no any single report that I've seen, actually, either from SADC or AU, which indicates that international observers were, for example, barred or blocked from accessing these polling stations.
Okay.
So I wanted to indicate that. But again, you see, nobody expected in our country that things could actually turn into that situation. Nobody ever expected. So it's something that actually that came abruptly. If If it was organized, then it was maybe perhaps well organized.
It was a damage control?
Yeah, if it was organized. But now, coming to the question I don't want to call it really media blackout, but I think...
what would we call it then?
Yeah, what was done, I think, was to shut down internet.
Okay.
And in my view, I am not in the shoes of people who did that.
Yeah.
But in my view, what I think...
Yes.
You see, if someone in Kigoma, Tanzania is a very big country, so I'm giving an example of a place called Kigoma. If some youths in Kigoma, looking to what's happening in Dar es Salaam, that some youths or some people in Dar es Salaam are vandalizing public installations, destroying people's properties, private people's properties, chopping off some people who voted, fingers because they just inked,
yes,
when they voted.
Yeah.
So it's very easy for these chaos to snowball, into other places in Tanzania. So I think just in their good wisdom, I think they decided that perhaps they shut down internet to avoid the spread of violence across the country,
okay,
which in my opinion, I think is a good thing, because in everything there is opportunity cost.
Okay.
You must look at, okay, do we allow internet so that the violence spread across the country, so that we burn down the country, or we shut down internet at least for some 5 days, so that the country come back to normalcy.
Okay. You mentioned that there is an opportunity cost in the entire situation, right? You have said that. When it comes to the opposition, there is reports, there is claims that the opposition was arrested, key opposition leaders. What are your thoughts on that?
Because I have been in Tanzania.
Yeah.
According to what I know, is that the vice chairman of Chadema,
okay,
my friend John Heche was arrested, I think, some 2 weeks before the elections.
Why was that so?
Yeah, the reason for arrest, I don't know, because I'm not in the space of, these policemen, and I'm not a spokesperson for the police department in Tanzania. But John was arrested, but I think now he's out in bail. Tundu Lissu, who is the Chadema national chairman, has been in custody. Actually, he has there is an ongoing case in court. I think since July, I think, or something like that.
Okay.
He's been there for quite some time. So it is not very true that there were, top leaders of opposition that were arrested on that, particular day, on election day. But
the days leading up to the election, isn't it quite the coincidence that the leaders were arrested days leading up to the election? Because two weeks, as you mentioned, is quite a substantial amount of time for things to turn around. Why exactly, in your opinion, do you think this happened? And don't you think it's too much of a coincidence?
You see, we have a police department.
Okay.
And there is also, and they have their intelligence. You know? Yeah. So because if someone is arrested in our country, there is a due, process to be followed. Someone will be arrested, investigation will be done, they will be taken, will be taken to court and all that. And that is why Tundu Lissu has a case in court. Yeah, because that is our legal process, the judicial process. Someone is arrested because there is when someone is being arrested, there are some good reasons for someone to be arrested, and he will be taken to court. Then ultimately, the court will determine if this person is really guilty of, or not. Okay. Yeah, so it's a process that we leave to court.
Okay, all right. Moving on, right? What measures were implemented to make sure that voters were safe and they had freedom to exercise their rights without any sort of intimidation?
I think, you see, like in our country, at least in every polling station, there are always security personnel in every polling station. The reason is to make sure that, or ensure that voters are safe and they are free to exercise, their freedom of choice, of choosing their candidates. So I think if voters were intimidated in any way, this was done by the people, demonstrators, these people who decided to demonstrate. Because, you see, our constitution provides for peaceful demonstration. I underline that. Our constitution provides for peaceful demonstration. Not a demonstration whereby you vandalize public installation, a demonstration whereby you kill people. We even have policemen, some policemen who died, as a result of this. There is a company in Tanzania, they reported recently, is a petroleum company, that about 38 filling stations were set ablaze. 38. People who are working in these filling stations, 38 filling stations, about 300 people have lost their job. Yeah. We have a person in I think that is in Arusha, whose finger was chopped off simply because he had ink as an evidence that he voted. There is one mzee in Dar es Salaam who he was in his car with his son. He was pulled out of his car simply because he had ink that he voted, and the car was set on fire.
Yes.
So these kind of things, you see, as much as the Constitution and our laws allows for demonstration, but it's a peaceful demonstration where you have to notify the police. Those are our laws. You have to notify the police, give them at least 48 hours notice, tell them the routes that you want to take, the reasons as to why you want to demonstrate, so that they actually provide security to you. But these people, some demonstrated at night. So that was, okay, it's quite unfortunate, and I'm also very sorry for whatever happened in my country. But there is a process to be followed, even when you want to demonstrate, and the law only provides for peaceful demonstrations.
Okay. Yeah. When we look at the post-election violence, when we look at the figures, when we see what has been reported versus the claims that are being made, of course, by different media outlets, by what we're seeing, what do you think is the real picture? Maybe you can paint us through the post-election violence and what exactly has been done, in the sense you mentioned that there were more than 300 people who've lost their jobs, right, in this. Maybe you can also take us through how much damage has been done in the post-election violence.
Actually, I would account for that if the government had released figures so far of the cost or the damage that has happened. But again, from the look of things, because after that I went to Dar es Salaam.
Yes.
I voted in a place called Mwanza. Then after that I went to Dar es Salaam. In Dar es Salaam we have, we call it rapid bus. We have a rapid bus system in Dar es Salaam. We call it BRT. All these stations, they're not even operating right now, because all the stations are vandalized. And that costed government millions of money. The kind of money that perhaps was to be taken to hospitals, to boost healthcare in our country, or be taken to schools, or building some roads, were actually taken to do this kind of project. Yes. So that we can actually ease the transport system in Dar es Salaam for economic benefits of our people. But you see now, this network of rapid bus transport was destroyed completely. We have government installations, like some government buildings that were burned. There's some private property, that were also burned. So it was indeed a very bad situation. Yes. Which is uncalled for. Yeah.
So you've mentioned that, of course, it is a bad situation, and I'm going to read to you some figures from the UN Human Rights Office, that's OHCHR, and it said that it had reports indicating that hundreds of people have been killed during the protests, with many more injured or detained. A diplomatic source in Tanzania has told the BBC that there were credible evidence that at least 500 people have died during this election, during the post-election violence. What is your thoughts on this? What would you have to say to this report?
Oh yeah, there have been so many speculations around.
Okay.
Yeah, some would actually tell you 23,000. I even saw it. Some would actually tell you 23,000 people died. Some will talk about some mass graves, in Dar es Salaam where people are being, buried. Some will talk about 11,000 people died. Some will talk about 3,000 people died. So
there's also videos that we've been seeing on social media. We've been seeing, obviously, BBC has released some videos as well, showing very graphic images of what exactly the situation was on ground and with the police brutality. What do you have to say about that as well?
The truth is that I'm not denying, and actually I acknowledge it from the word go. It is true that people died, and even the president acknowledged when she was giving her maiden speech in the parliament. She acknowledged that, and everybody is acknowledging that it is true that some people died, some got injured, and some were also detained. And that is why the president, during the maiden speech in the parliament the other day, she actually instructed our security agencies, the DCI, I think, to actually assess, this kind of, because some were given terrorism charges. So she gave a directive that they should assess these cases, and if possible, some should be acquitted.
Okay.
Depending on the weight, of the crimes committed.
Yes.
So she gave that directive. So I am not denying the fact that some people died, and as I have said from the beginning, and it's a situation that I wish will not, happen again in our country. But now the problem is with these figures.
Yes. Because
they are not verified, and that is why even our government has actually not come out with a correct maybe figure of people who maybe died or people who got injury, because it takes time, to kind of gather this kind of data so that you may be able to release to the public. Yeah, so the figures you see there have been different conflicting reports from different institutions, different sources that according to me are not yet verified.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. And of course, as we wrap up, moving forward, what exactly do you think needs to be done? Because the opposition has obviously rejected calls for dialogue. You said dialogue is the only way out. President Samia Suluhu also mentioned in one of the stories that we've aired right here that dialogue is very important. So if there is no dialogue from their side, from the opposition side, what happens next?
Okay, first, I should acknowledge that, you see, the one good thing today is that the president today launched a commission of inquiry that is going to is formed by about 8 members. Some retired senior judges are there. That is actually going to look into what happened, the causes of demonstrations, how can the government address the causes of demonstrations so that we avoid occurrences in future.
Okay.
So that is a very good move, number one. But again, the president also promised that she is going to start a Truth and Reconciliation Commission after these findings. That is going to be the next step. But again, the president also promised that we are going to embark on writing our new constitution. She also promised that, which opposition in our country has been talking about, over the years. So the president has promised that. Again, the president has formed a fully fledged ministry that is only going to deal with youth affairs, which is also a very good move. Now, coming to what you've asked me specifically about the opposition saying that they're not going to participate in
dialogue.
Dialogue. Look here, it's the only bad thing, the only mistake that many political analysts or journalists do is to think that it's only Chadema that makes opposition in Tanzania. Tanzania has about, as I have indicated, we have about 19 registered political parties. So these other political parties have not indicated if they're not going to participate. Okay. So it is a very wrong assumption to think that if Chadema says they're not participating, then the entire opposition is not participating in a country with about 19 political parties.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Of course, with me in studio, I have had Ezekiah Wenje, who is a former MP, as well as the CCM official. He's just painting the picture of what exactly happened in Tanzania, and he has been answering my questions. We weren't able to get questions from our viewers, unfortunately, due to lack of time. And yeah, thank you so much for coming. We hope that you were able to clarify a few things here and there. And we were also able to understand what exactly happened there, because, you know, truthfully speaking, as journalists who are international journalists rather, we weren't able to get a clearer picture of what happened there.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for painting that picture for us right here on TV 47.
Thank you. Asante sana.